You see that right there? That's the groundhog hole. I'm sitting right on the front porch of the groundhog. This evening, I'm going to continue reading the story called Before Shibboleth. When I ended, the king and the community were doing very well. The king was just keeping the money in circulation. The people were happy. They were working less and had time to play and pray, practice spiritual practice. And the queen was happy. But one person wasn't so satisfied, and that was the alchemist. When I have something, and then I find out somehow that you need it or want it, now I know that I can embarrass you by not giving it to you, even though this thing that I have may not be important to me at all. When I do this, I commit usury. I will usually want something in exchange, rather than hand over this thing for free once I find out that you want it or need it. This is usury, and it is very contagious. The payola was absolutely necessary and needed and wanted by all the people, because it was absolutely essential to the new way in which everyone was working so well together, where each worker got paid to do a certain part of getting something done or getting something made. This is called division of labor. And once the division of labor reached a certain level, money was absolutely essential. Otherwise, the factory process, or the production line process, of working together and getting things done or made broke down, and everything became quite a chore again. Having less money in circulation would slow down all the work activity, and so he, the alchemist, could control the people by keeping them a little bit confused and worried. And there would always be poor people around who would work and who even wanted to work, but for some reason there wasn't a job for them, even though there were things that needed to be done and that would be done, but except that there wasn't enough payola around. This was so perplexing to everyone. There were a few people around who knew what was happening, but even they were not able to see what could be done about it. The payola was just hoardable, and that's the way it was. The temples were getting bigger, and the golden cows were getting bigger, and they were getting more and more beautiful. The people liked to admire them, and felt a little bit assured just being inside the thick-walled chamber, where it was safe and quiet and beautiful. The golden pigs sparkled, and there were radiant vibes. What was it about the golden pig? Little by little, over the course of a few years, the alchemist piled up a massive hoard of magic gold coins. The people depended on the payola now in order to keep things rolling. The workers had learned that joining together and then paying each other to perform one particular part of the big job of making everyone comfortable made everything easier to accomplish. And even more things than were needed could be produced easily. Abundance. In fact, all this was considered normal. And so, to make sure that not too many unnecessary things were made, something very special was done. The two original leaders watched all of the activity and production of things very closely, and they had a special way of seeing things, a way which gave them a unique understanding of the big picture of how this new way of doing all the work was affecting nature. They met with the three magicians and discussed the matter. and came up with a magic formula to keep everything in balance. Here is the magical formula. D equals S, where D equals demand, which is represented by payola, and S equals supply, which is represented by all the things being produced and sitting on your shelf or just sitting around anywhere waiting to be sold, services included too, and which had to be sold, because otherwise it was a waste of time and energy and resources of the earth. To sell the extra stuff is the only reason for producing so much. If things don't sell, why continue to produce them? So in order to manage this, they divided each magic coin into smaller parts and invented price, which represented how many little parts would be exchanged for a product. It was a very magical invention. The money magic was becoming even more powerful. Just watch. The things which were in higher demand, which people wanted more, would have a higher price at first, and eventually the price would level off once enough of these things were being made for everyone that wanted one to have one. And then, in order to have an idea about the big picture, the one that takes everything into consideration, they invented CPI, Consumer Price Index, which is the average price for all the most important or needed products, essentially natural resources, like cotton, steel, wood, and corn, and soybeans, and pork, maybe beef. So now, there was a special magic formula which would keep all the activity and production in balance with nature, to keep CPI stable, the same, by making sure that D equals S. Everybody was happy. But then the alchemist started to scheme. He could see a weakness in the plan, and his usury began to stir once again. Even more this time, because he was developing a talent by practicing usury. He was getting better at it. But this talent is not one which is helpful to the individual practicing it, and it's not helpful for all of us, or anyone really. The more usury is practiced and developed, the more a fear builds up inside, a mysterious fear which is infectious and can spread. It is a fear which turns into paranoia, fear of the invisible, the imaginary, fear of a beast which can't be seen. We feed this fear when we hold tight to money. And the present or traditional form of money which we use these days is what makes it possible to hold the money tightly more and more. It is called hoardable money. But money should flow like water, smoothly, consistently. And this would help our use of the natural resources to be smooth and continuous and sustainable. There are two forms of money, not just the one we presently know. But at this time, in this story, that is all that is not known. Just the hoardable form of money is all we know, for now. The other two magi, the astrologer and the healer, could see that the alchemist was scheming and losing his balance, going a little bit mad, crazy. Years passed. The alchemist felt powerful with the payola under his control. He could make people happy with it by sharing it and keeping it flowing, or he could hold on to it and hoard it and hide it as the golden cow, just to make sure that no one else could threaten his power, building up a fear in the people about the afterlife, while this life suffered and became confused and lost. He created an illusion which he controlled. Meanwhile, the other two magi began meeting secretly. They called for help, keeping their minds clear and focused in ceremony. They asked for help. One night, as they sat quietly in ceremony, they were sent a message to follow a particular star on a certain night, to be at a sacred place right below it. A helper was being sent. The two magicians began their preparations and synchronizing with the star. Some of the leaders began to understand and to see what the alchemist was doing, and the alchemist could sense this. To put them off course again, he performed some more magic, black magic, because it was inspired by fear of something which cannot even be seen, something in the dark, the beast. He mixed up copper with the gold to make up more magical coins. Copper is the element of love. It blends with everything. He made it so that by hoarding coins, he not only controlled the ability and potential of the workers and their comfort and happiness, he also controlled their natural innate desire to love. The circulation of love in the community that was embedded in the coppery, golden-looking payola. He felt powerful now more than ever, and his fear seemed to go away. He started using some of the mountain of cash he had accumulated to stir gossip, which would give him even more control and power. It worked for a while, but then eventually he felt himself being looked at again. Someone was on to him. And so he decided to move his operation to another village, which was in need of the magical coins, but who had no idea about what he knew, the secret about hoardable money. He left the previous village temple operation to one of his allies, a worker friend, who was willing to help him in exchange for just a place to live and some food and the chance to pray. But this worker's actions were also all driven by fear. The alchemist performed his black magic with the hoardable magic coin in several villages over the years. He was little by little acquiring an unbelievable hoard of magical golden coins, well concealed in the golden cows, which more and more of the people considered sacred and vital to their future in the afterlife. Remember, this alchemist was not shown the deep secrets of his trade. He did not know how to grow gold. The ancestor teachers knew better than to share such powerful secrets with just anyone. This alchemist had to find gold in gold mines and rivers just like anyone else. His only secret was a trick, that of adding copper to the gold to make it appear like there were lots of magic gold coins. Copper is the element of love. It blends or mixes well with all the metals, like the agent of love in ourselves, which blends well with everything. I must make this happen by magic, the healer magician was saying to himself. But I need the help of the ancestors. I need the knowledge and insight of their experience and wisdom. For them to allow and grant this vital power to me, I must be clear and focused. I am being with the breathing. Temples and golden cows were set up in many villages. An accomplished monk priest was always left in charge while the alchemist moved on to introduce payola and the golden cow to the next unsuspecting village. The villages did prosper. They even began working together in ways that provided much abundance. And since the work was able to be divided between lots of people, life became easier and easier and better. Everything was going well. The magical golden coins circulated like blood to keep business alive. The division of labor just kept getting refined. Now people even had time to devote to their spiritual practice. We are very special hybrid beings, part physical with the body and mind, and part spiritual for receiving the God message from the Sun, directions for preparing this kingdom of earth for God to come. The message of the Sun being received as clearly as possible by the spiritual body in order for the physical body to carry out the work. of preparing always this kingdom for God, life to come. Can you imagine the world fully able to host God, where we are always refining whatever work is required and able to accomplish miracles even greater than those of Jesus, like he said? And then us, the human hand of God, launching into space to prepare other worlds for God to come. Imagine this world while I share with you what will make it happen. And interesting things began to happen indeed. The people gradually created all that was needed, and the work to sustain that had become easier and easier. The people were happy. The alchemist had plenty of magical golden coins, and giant-sized golden cows, and beautiful temples. Everything seemed good. But the alchemist felt not so powerful anymore. The people were off and running and really handling everything in miraculous ways, even without the alchemist. The alchemist didn't feel powerful anymore, and he wanted the power back. He had meetings with some of the fishermen. They had nice boats and were the richest workers of all. And he told them about his plan. He asked them if they would like to make money, payola, without working. And then he explained, build a ship, a special ship, a merchant's ship, able to carry lots of loot, goods. Put together a crew of hungry, mean, down and out angry men, Vikings. You can find them in places where there is no payola yet. I will tell you just exactly where to send this boat and crew. It will be an easy mission. Simply take the golden cow and the cash box, the box of magical golden coins. The temple is an easy hit, and destroy some homes too. Then the people will need more payola to rebuild and recover. And who will have it? We will. And since we know now that the people would not do well without the essential payola, we will have an advantage when loaning it to the king. Payola is absolutely essential once the labor has been divided between a lot of people, especially in order to keep up with refining the whole process of work, which is research and development. The alchemist continued his explanation. So, we will find the market in a suitable state, desperate enough to pay a little extra in addition to the total amount borrowed. A little something for the temple to assure a good seat with God in heaven. The king can do likewise and charge a little extra too when loaning the payola to the leader workers. And this plan worked perfectly in an evil kind of way. And the alchemist's fear was soothed once again. And he even designed a new business, money changing, making a little bit of money profit just for exchanging one metal payola for another of silver, which started to be used in the villages which had their gold and payola stolen. The alchemist loaned this silver money also. All of this time, the astrologer and the healer were synchronizing with the very special star. The Vikings had visited their village not long ago and put them in terrible shape. The people were having a difficult time, and the alchemist was talking with the king about a loan with tribute, interest. And then one evening, the healer and the astrologer received another important message in one of their magic ceremonies. Go to the star directly below it. There you will find our agent, who will investigate the problem and uncover the secret cause which is behind the ups and downs the people are experiencing in your economy. Economy is defined as the exchange and flow ultimately of natural resources around the world. Also to find out how the dark forces were gaining so much power, and who or what was behind the Vikings. The Vikings are defined here as basically terrorist gangs, funded by you-know-who, the alchemist. The mission of the agent is to deliver a message which will clobber the beast behind all this trouble in their world. So, one night, when this special star was set to appear just ahead of the sun, they departed on their camels east across the desert. The two magi had been keeping track of this special star for a long time. This star, which was really a planet, Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, it symbolizes strength and expansion. It is the general symbol for authority and knowledge. It increases possessions, makes rich and prosperous. It reigns all senior officials of state and church. This is the star which is making way for the sun rising on this particular day. The Magi would travel all night to get there at just the right time, to just the right place. By this time, their village had been practically abandoned. Just a small group remained with the king and queen. Each of the Magi brought a gift which would help the messenger to survive and help him to complete his mission. The astrologer took frankincense for use in spiritual practice. The healer took the gift of myrrh to treat wounds. On this particular evening, when the stars and the planets were most propitious, and Jupiter was scheduled to make way for the sun, they climbed the steps leading from their underground sanctuary. The night was crystal clear, and made their way to the palace, where they were joined by the queen, who brought gold coins to give to the messenger, enough to assure comfort and success during his mission here on earth. The three of them found the messenger right there under the star, as was planned, and presented to him their gifts. The messenger grew up well and became a builder of homes. He was able to practice his trade anywhere, and so he traveled to learn and experience. And during his travels, he discovered what happened to all the ruined villages where he did a lot of his work, rebuilding and helping people. Over the course of many years, he saw what was happening.